Good day. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Yo Kids podcast. Today we have with us Katelynn. Katelynn, introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Jay. My name is Katelynn Stone. I am the founder of EverRoot Academy here in Crestview, Florida, and I'm a lifelong educator trying out something new.
Nice. Take us through the journey. How did you get here? How did you get to EverRoot Academy?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. So it was a very long journey. As you said, I've kind of been in and out of public school my whole career because even when I was in high school, I noticed a lot of discrepancies between what public education promised and what I saw classmates and myself going through, and even my own family. And so, I kind of went into college with no aspirations to be a teacher at all, and then kind of fell into it. I noticed pretty quickly that I ran all the tutoring groups and, was working with classmates and roommates, and, it just naturally happened. And then I realized that I enjoyed it. So it kind of became a calling, and I began working with special education students, specifically at a local treatment center near where I went to college, and just fell in love with it. I went from there to get a job in a regular public school and quickly realized that the level of support I had seen was not normal. And so, at this institution in which I started teaching, the staff was so committed to every child. Every child had an IEP. And even if they did not, there was this universal design just paradigm that everybody followed. Everyone needed to access learning for the day in whatever way they could. And when I moved into regular public school, public education, that was not the case. And it really disappointed me. So, I've done learning co-ops and private schools and charters, and then had a child and needed health insurance. So I went back to public ed and, and then I became a military spouse, which I moved a lot prior, but now I really move a lot. And our latest station has been here in Florida. Where, as I've heard from many other educators who have moved here, the culture of education here is pretty tough. It's really tough on teachers. There are regular letters to families about reporting teachers directly to the state for mishaps.
Oh, wow.
It's very disappointing to see. So that culture combined with my own child's experiences as a military child, I decided it was time to start EverRoot Academy. So, at this point, I've been a teacher, an administrator, a consultant, a curriculum designer. And I think, the need is there, between
Homeschool families. Homeschool Yo Kids Expo and Homeschool Beats Academy are teaming up to bring you a day of real support and real inspiration. Come explore curriculum and enrichment, meet trusted vendors, and connect with the homeschool community. And at our featured Expo stop, meet Homeschool Beats Academy and see how students ages 7 to 18 can create original music through beat making and production with parent-friendly guidance. Get dates and details at homeschoolyokidsexpo.com.
The kind of toxic environment that I have seen here, and the censorship in Florida around what kids can discuss. Those two gaps are going to be the things that EverRoot addresses.
Okay. Yeah, Florida is one of those states where it's like you got to tiptoe around a lot of things now.
There's a lot of tiptoeing.
Yeah. They got all types of regulations. Yeah. Okay, so the school where you were at, where you found the support and all the kids had individual educational plans, that was a private school? What was that?
It was a charter school, technically.
Oh, a charter school.
Because It was run by both a public charter and it partnered with a mental institution that did individualized treatment for kids. And so it was a combination institution. Yeah, it was very impressive. So
yeah, it sounds like it. That's interesting. I haven't heard that dynamics partner with something with the mental.
Yeah. It's very rare. It was a psychiatric ward we had kids as young as 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
Some were put there by families, some of them by court systems. So it just depended, but the treatment and the transformations I saw there were very real and beautiful and tough. But yeah, it was if you did not enjoy it, you didn't last long. I'll put it that way.
Gotcha. Okay. And so from there, you went on to public school.
hmm
And what did you teach? What were you teaching?
I was primarily an ELA teacher for secondary.
Okay.
So I taught 9th through 12th, everything from inclusion to ESL. We had a lot of ESL. This was in Denver, was my next teaching position in Denver Public Schools.
Homeschool families, are you ready to refresh your plans for the year? Join us at the Homeschool Yo Kids Expo. Meet curriculum and enrichment vendors, discover new programs, and connect with a community that gets it, all in one place. Come with questions, leave with real options. Get event details and register now at homeschoolyokidsexpo.com. That's homeschoolyokidsexpo.com.
And then a generic ELA class for 9th through 12th.
Gotcha. How is Denver? We're hosting an expo in Denver this year. How is Denver Public Schools?
Working in Denver Public Schools at the time, I was a very young educator. And so, I have a lot of friends who worked in Denver and now work in places like Oakland or San Francisco or New York. And, when we get together and we talk about Denver Public Schools, the unifying experience is just chaos, because it's just a huge district. It's one of the biggest, unified school districts in the nation. And so it felt very easy to get lost in the numbers, not only for us, but for our students. They do a lot of combining schools and shutting down other schools, which can work for the benefit or the detriment of specific populations. And so there's always a lot going on. And, at the time that I got there, Denver Public Schools, this was in the early 2000s, so maybe 2010-ish. Denver Public Schools had just been through a lawsuit, actually, in how they serviced students who don't speak English as a first language. And so we had a huge emphasis on how to teach English as an additional language support. I think every week we were in professional learning, which, I benefited from. I really appreciated it, but you could tell that was the priority of the district. And I think they've come a very long way in that priority.
Oh, nice. Okay. And from Colorado, you went to Florida?
No, from Colorado, I went to, let's see, where did I go next? I went to Texas, which was where I was raised, and spent a little bit of time working with a wilderness nature center there. And then I heard about Integrated Learners, the North Star program up in the Northeast. And so I went and worked with a co-op up there for a little bit. That was really awesome. They have a beautiful, it's not an unschooling philosophy necessarily, but they run their schools as offers to the kids. So when a child leaves public school and enrolls in a Liberated Learners program, no one makes them go to class. They come and they walk in and they can sit on couches in the lounge room the whole day if they want to. And they pretty quickly notice, that the kids in the next room are talking about, the astronomical alignments of Van Gogh's Starry Night or something, and they're like, oh, this is interesting. And so it's very much a self-directed learning center. So that was a beautiful experience for me to get to go see how that worked. And then came back to Texas and entered a high school there in Amarillo, taught ELA. And then my principal there was the one who told me that I needed to move on. And so he promoted me to an English.
Your kid has music in them. They just need the right tools to let it out. Homeschool Beats Academy teaches kids ages 7 to 18 how to make real beats at home on their schedule, in their own style. No experience needed. Grab the complete First Beat Kit free at homebeatsacademy.com. That's homeschoolbeatsacademy.com.
Department head position where I worked with curriculum and assessments for students and did a lot of instructional coaching. That's probably my favorite job I've ever had. And from there to assistant principal in New Mexico. And then I came to Florida. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. New Mexico. Oh my, you've been a little place everywhere.
A little bit.
Mid area. I like it. Okay. So then we came to Florida. So with all that you gathered along the way, you developed EverRoot Academy.
Yes. It has a little bit of everything. And all the wisdom that's been shared with me over the years, countless mentors are represented in the program.
Okay, tell us about it. What can we expect when dealing with EverRoot?
Yeah, so the original idea was to allow students to become agents of their own future society. So, that idea came alive here in Florida specifically because I saw a lot of doors closing for students who wanted to talk about real complex, nuanced topics who are not allowed to. Florida is one of the top curriculum censorship states in the nation. So that combined with an access gap, a real access gap that over my career I've noticed students who move a lot, which includes like world schooling families or military families, or, my last school in New Mexico, we had students who had to go out of state for medical treatment. And every time they did, they lost learning. So kind of combining those two gaps came EverRoot. So it is a virtual synchronous and asynchronous program, Tuesday through Thursday, where students will log on. We'll have a daily news digest where we talk about what's going on in the world today. It's going to be very global, critical consciousness minded. Do we need to talk about what's going on in Pakistan? Do we need to talk about what's going on in Germany today? What interests you guys? How can we build that in the day? And then we go through some core subject work, which is all related to maybe a theme of the week. We'll do some ELA. So an example I always give families is pretty rarely this year, Lunar New Year, Ramadan, and Lent all started in the same week. So that week would have been so rich with cultural tradition. We could talk about the history of each holiday on each day and go through, what are you curious about? What is the math behind the lunar phases and why we celebrate that in a lot of East Asian countries? And, does your community, here's the critical part, does your community have any way for people who celebrate that holiday to access what they need to celebrate that holiday? My community, actually, our Asian food market just closed down about a month ago. So if I have students who are in different communities, then no longer are those moves a detriment. They are a way to empower critical conversations about why some communities have resources that others don't. And so that is the ultimate goal, is that we talk about the world, we see the problems, we see the strengths, and then we think about, even as young as 5 years old, like, what am I going to care about? What do I care about? And is there anything I can do about that in my community? Our basketball court hasn't been resurfaced in 30 years. And, having a 5-year-old be able to look at that and say, well, the park over there has a resurfaced basketball court. Why does mine not have a resurfaced basketball court? And, they notice. And so being able to communicate with kids that they have the power to notice and then to make decisions based on their noticings, right? So virtual Tuesday through Thursday. And then every weekend, I kind of give guardians, this empowering project choice, right? So sometimes we'll meet up together, sometimes we won't. But with the example of the Ramadan, Lent, and Lunar New Year week, I might say, okay, you have some choices this weekend. As a family, go explore your own East Asian market and try a new food that maybe you haven't tried before. Talk to the store owners and see what they cook on Lunar New Year. Go study the architecture, draw the architecture in your closest mosque. See if you have our community here has a huge Greek Orthodox festival every year where they talk about their Lenten traditions. And Easter is a really big deal, a multi-day festival for them. And so, encouraging kids to, okay, we've talked about this all week. Now go see what's in your community related to this. It's school is not separate from where you live. We know that from decades of research. So letting them know that we're not isolated. We're part of our community, and everything you learn is part of your community. And so that's what it looks like. And then we get to discuss those things the following week. So
I love that. I love that, especially with having the young people think about issues or problems in their community and then focusing energy on solutions. I interviewed somebody and things become a blur after a while. But either way, her daughter, I feel like her daughter was under maybe like 10 or maybe she was around 10 or 11, but she put in for a crosswalk to be built or painted in her neighborhood. She was like, we need a crosswalk here. Her mom took her to one of the city meetings, the budget meetings and everything. And she spoke and presented and she got it done. And I was like, oh my goodness, that is so awesome. But just encouraging and letting our kids know just how much of a value they are now as opposed to later is so important.
Truth. And letting them see us do it. And letting them know that you do have access to these meetings that feel stuffy and you deserve to be there and you deserve to say what you think, is like, I remember growing up, it was such a barrier for, I grew up in the South, and for me, I have a ton of privilege surrounding me in my life and I still felt like I was not welcome in those spaces. And so creating a learning opportunity where kids are really like, we are trying to build access. If you couldn't go into that space or you didn't feel comfortable going into that space, why? And we need to talk about it, and that's where I come in is for every location that I have students, I'm also going to create a matrix of locations for families to visit that, whenever you go to this location, what kinds of families do you see? Who's there? Who's not there? Why do we think that's the case? Would your family giving them a decision matrix? Because as a virtual school, I am not going to be present with my families in Dallas or Salt Lake City or San Francisco, but I still have a responsibility to deliver a safe learning experience. So I will never tell my learners to go somewhere that is not going to make them comfortable. So.
Nice. But I love that you're encouraging community. You're encouraging them to get out and talk and be interactive with their community.
Yes, that is a big deal too, I remember running a project in a high school one year, years and years and years ago, where part of the project was to make a phone call to a professional who works in the field that you're trying to create a project for. And the kids were terrified. They were terrified. And these were 12th graders. And I was like, no, let's work on this because the ability to use your voice, whatever that looks like for who you are, it takes practice. It's a muscle, right? And I think, the ability to talk across cultures, across entities, across country lines, is one of the most important 21st century work skills, and our kids are going to have to do that more than we even have to today. As we watch this exponential increase in globalization, there's no way, if you're not preparing your kids to talk across cultural lines, then you are not preparing them for life.
Yes.
So it's got to be intentional. So.
Indeed. I love this. My oldest, she wants to go to Japan next year for her 13th birthday. And I told her she has to learn their culture. Like she has to learn the do's and the don'ts. Like one, to teach us, 'cause me and her sister will be accompanying her, but also so we can go there and make sure that we are, following their protocol and being respectful to their culture in general. So I made it a little project. But
it's
I love that.
It's beautiful that she got to decide that, and then you're there to support. Oh, makes my heart happy.
Yes, that's important. Because we always talk about the U.S. being a melting pot, but then when it comes to talking about those that make up the melting pot and being accepting of their culture that makes up the melting pot, it's always so it's weird. It's like, it's like, oh no, you're welcome here, but make sure you speak English. Make sure you do make sure you do this. Make sure you wait, hold on. I thought we were a melting pot. I thought
all the places I've lived, I've never lived in the deep South, and being in Florida is different here. Like I've noticed, no one is ashamed to tell you that you need to blend in, and it's been a learning experience for me because, as a facilitator who's going to tell my kids no, have courage, go out there and talk to people. I have to realize that, I'm a walking, middle-ish class white woman. I can do that in a lot of spaces that I may have kids who cannot do here specifically or in other places. But, it's new to me that, racism is not new to me, but how explicitly it is stated and not called out. That was new to me, in Florida. And so that's one of the reasons when I moved here, I actually did get work in the public school here. And it was over and over, just explicit in discipline meetings and IEPs, all over across the board. And eventually they let me go. They said, you're not a good fit.
Oh, really?
I agree. Oh, it was a blessing. It was a blessing.
She's like, no, I'm good. But
I should have left before they told me I was not a good fit. But I thought I could have an impact by calling these things out. And what I quickly realized is impact is not desired, I think. Was the message I received. So
see, and that's the thing, Katelynn, because we talk about, our passionate teachers, the teachers going in there and using, because I always say that teachers are so complacent and so compliant. Like, they're so okay, even though they know it's wrong or whatever's being asked of them shouldn't, no, I don't think this is really beneficial to the students, but they're you're so accepting of things. And, but is that the design? Is that too key? Because I did have a coworker who was so afraid to lose her job, and I used to tell her, "Girl, they need you. What do you mean? They're not gonna fire you. They need." I used to tell her that all the time.
I wish that was the case here. That has been the case in other districts. And it's not like they're not hurting.
Right, I know
they are hurting for teachers, but not enough. Not enough
to have you in your mouth there.
Yes.
Telling
and
people.
Not only me either. Whenever it happened to me, I started talking with more folks in the community, and it's a pattern here.
Yes, indeed. And then if you're teaching others to speak up, you're dangerous. Yes. You become dangerous.
You know what? Every family that came in, I was in charge of discipline. So every family that came in, I was like, you need to go read IDEA. You need to go read IDEA. And then they were like, oh. So it is what it is. But
it is because you find. Yeah, I taught 12th, 10th, and middle school. I taught 7th grade. So yeah, English. I was teaching English. Yes, in Virginia.
Okay.
So every state differs, but it doesn't seem like they differ. Every state differs, but it doesn't seem like they differ based on the conversations I have with teachers in different states or former educators in different states, because most of them have left the classroom that I've been talking to. It's just the impact seems way more successful outside the classroom. It's we go in there and we think that, like you say, oh, I'm doing something good. Oh, let's change this. Oh, no, we all feel this is the problem. But it's no, honey.
We tried. No. We put in a good effort. We were there. We did this.
Yes. So EverRoot. Okay, is this for all ages, like K through 12? What's your age?
It's K through 8 right now, and that is only because I need time. Because if I'm going to do a 9 through 12 program, I want to make sure. Even my policy handbook, I cannot tell you how many times I've sent it back and forth to lawyers. I need to make sure I have a quality product before I give it to families. And if I'm working with kids who are acquiring credits, I've got to make sure that I am accredited and able to deliver if that child decides to go back to public school or to another institution. Yes. So I need time. I need time for those students to make sure I can give them what they need.
Yeah, high school is a different level. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Growth, honey, growth. And you will continue to grow and build it, and they will come. So when you are ready for them, they will be there. I actually just had to send, I had a parent reach out for her 10th grader, and she was looking for online virtual schools. Yep, she's in Maryland, but I sent her all the ones that I'm familiar with. So like I said, build it and they will come. Like the people are looking for change.
They are. The only other model I have seen, because I was trying not to reinvent the wheel. So I was looking for virtual schools focused on community and civic action, and I really could not find anything. I found this Socratic experience, and there's a school called the School of Humanity that I just got locked in on, and they seem like the closest model. Have you seen them?
No, School of Humanity. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yes, I'll send you the link after we're done.
Okay.
The woman who founded it has also worked with the United Nations quite a bit, and she has school students from 40 countries I want to say she's 6 through 12. And yeah, last week I went to they did a showcase of projects, and there was a young woman, I want to say she was 8th grade in Ecuador, and she was doing a presentation. I think the theme was how the art of nature helps us as humans meet global need. And she did a project on how the economic fluctuations in the United States have directly impacted her life as a teenager because of Ecuador's economy. And, they use the US dollar. And so she did, she basically walked through her last couple of years and how she has seen changes here directly impact businesses there. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was like exactly what I envision. Highly recommend. I'll send you the link.
Nice. Yes, please do, because that's dope. Because one, I didn't know Ecuador used U.S. dollars. You taught me a couple things just in that little brief presentation.
Yeah, a lot of colonization. Them and Panama. Yeah. So
yeah. You said a lot of colonization. Yes.
Well, that's what's going on right there. So. Yeah.
Indeed. But no, I love what you're doing. I love what you've created. You're giving people power, little people at that, like young people.
That's the goal. The only gap I haven't met is how to bring it to students who really are housing insecure, because that's another population we want to serve. But I spent last week in South by Southwest EDU in Austin, Texas, which is beautiful. It's so beautiful. There are a ton of homeschooling resources there too. And I met with one woman who she just became the first accredited virtual school in New Zealand. And she was telling me I needed to just calm down a little bit, because serving that specific population is going to take more than one community. It's going to take so many infrastructure pieces, I talked with one man brilliant. He was like, oh, you need this app where, wherever a kid goes, they can just put in their address and it shows them where they can find shelter and food. And I was like, oh, great. What's the app? And he was like, no, you have to go build it. And I was like, right. I'll just get right on that. But he's not wrong.
Yeah.
These things that are, but the other piece to that is I may not be the one to build it. I may have a student who can build that. And that's the goal of EverRoot, is to see these issues, and, one person cannot do it all. So as soon as we work together, we're more than the sum of our parts. And, so one of these days, I envision having student-centered solutions for those other populations that need the gap filled.
Nice. Are you with I know Florida has like two or three funds, the Hope Scholarship, and is it Hope?
The Hope Scholarship is specifically for students whose guardians and the students themselves have reported bullying. And so you get that scholarship to go to any other school. But the separate fund that is specific to homeschooling families is called Step Up. Yes. Step Up, yes. And I qualify for Step Up. I'm technically a part-time tutoring program under Step Up, because we don't meet. I'm not trying to keep these kids on a computer from 8 to 3. So I'm technically part-time. I don't meet the full-time hourly requirement, but that's on purpose.
Gotcha. What are the hours? Like, how often do you meet?
Yeah, good question. So on the Tuesday through Thursday days, we'll have like an hour in the morning that is not instructional. It's specifically, I'm calling it a coffee chat, where parents can meet and we can just discuss issues that we're seeing, or community gaps, or if we have a lesson coming up and one family doesn't have a resource, we can get together, we can figure it out. That's going to be the first thing every morning. And then depending on the age level, 9:30, we'll get on. Each grade level, there'll be multi-age groups. We'll have 10 to 15 minutes between each learning block. And so we might do 9 to 10, and then 10:15 to 11:15, I think, is the little schedule. An hour for lunch, plenty of time, especially for my itty bitties who might still be napping in the middle of the day. And then we'll do like a 12:30 to 2:30 block. And then after that is private tutoring and small group tutoring for my students who have some things that they want to work on specifically.
Nice. Okay.
So no more than 4 hours a day for any given child.
Okay. And is this like a la carte, or is this Tuesday through Thursday? Like, like, is it
Yeah,
something that
yeah.
parents are able to, okay, we want to go to this session, or
Mhm.
we want to go to this session, or is it once you're enrolled, you go to all sessions?
We have multiple plans. I actually did have a parent ask if they could only do ELA or math, and I haven't explored that yet. I like the idea. I haven't worked out how it would look in the schedule yet, but we also do have flexible programs. So they could come 2 days a week if they wanted to. They could do tutoring only if they wanted to. If families select tutoring only, though, I cannot not offer the community projects, because a big piece of growing your brain, if you have gaps that you want addressed, is to get out in the community and expand your vocabulary and how you talk about the world. And so if a family is joining EverRoot specifically because they think their child has gaps that need to be filled, they will also get the community projects. And so, and that's just a personal philosophy of mine. But yes, we do have flexible programming. I need to explore the class specific, because I've also had families ask about who are very STEM focused, who want only scientific, projects sent home. And so that's something that I haven't worked or I haven't built into the website, but it's in my brain to explore that.
Nice. And are y'all launching this fall? When are y'all
Yes, August of
this fall?
2026. Originally, I had aspirations to do a year-round program because of the research behind that, especially since we're only going to be a 4-day learning week because of the research around that. But I decided that I would rather offer that optional summer, just because we have so many homeschooling families who want to take big, non-obligation to academics trips over the summer, and I want to honor that without making them feel like they're missing, And it could be that we do a 12-month program in the future. We're very much building this with families, not toward them. So, collaborating with parents.
I love this. Like, you create little humanitarians. Like they're going to be out here changing the game. That's what we need. That's what we need, game changers. I talked to my two about, what problem do you see? Okay, what solution can you be? But they're only two. Like, it's only two of them. So on a more expensive level, I love this. Like, I love this. I really do. Because we have to be the change. Like, I tell people all the time, we're so good at talking about the issues. Like, let's talk about the solutions. Like, how can we get these solutions rolling? And then starting them off early on. Like, if you look at any of our past civil rights leaders, any of our actionable historical figures who made big differences, they did it early. They didn't do it later. Like, they were making those changes in their teen. Like, they were teenagers leading whole revolutionaries. They were early 20s leading, like, making like, they were doing things. And it's like, I don't know, over the course of time, we just became so distracted with media and just a bunch of distractions. So we just go group them all together. Just a bunch of distractions that keep us distracted from actually doing what we know we can do, which is be the change that we wish to see in the world.
Yes.
So you are doing it, love.
Thanks. I'm very excited and a little bit intimidated by, all the things that these kids are going to come up with, because I know in public school, I was always pushing the boundary of what was allowed. And, I had a prior principal tell me that I scared him constantly, but then he's the one who promoted me, so it couldn't have been too bad. But, I would have kids paint the windows with, the issues that they wanted, or write petitions, or, what have you. And I'm just so excited about the potential of what these students are going to be able to do when they don't have the walls of a school to hold them back. Like, it's going to be beautiful.
Yes, empowering. You are empowering the future.
Yeah, and the parents too. I think there's going to be a good bit of coaching with, how do you handle a child who wants to go speak at the school board meeting, or who wants to go speak at the city council meeting? How can you be okay with that? How can you support the child? How can you support your own feelings around that? Because there's going to be some fear and release that needs to happen. And it's going to be, we're all going to grow.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because that is something to address as far as parents go. Because it's like,
Mhm.
oh my goodness, I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you, I know there was like a viral video or picture where this mom was grabbing her son from a
Mhm.
protest. He was in the street.
Mhm.
Like, I think this was
Mhm.
during like the Black Lives Matter protests and stuff. And
Mhm.
people like, it was two-sided. Like people are like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, go get your
Right.
child. Don't let him be
Yeah.
out there doing this. And then the other side is like, well, he felt the need to act
Yeah.
on this. He felt the need to be out there. So maybe you should
Yeah.
have been supporting, so
Yeah.
it's yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard,
It
to
is.
walk that
It
line, especially as a parent. I tell my oldest all the time, you're teaching me how to be a mom because, like you said, there are multiple arguments for every decision you make as a parent. With my own kids, I know that in EverRoot, I will include protests as an option. Like, hey, this weekend, this is going on, this is going on. If you want to go help with this, you can go here. You can choose to not go. You can choose to go.
Mhm.
This is part of community, is seeing and paying attention and listening. And let's say this protest is a window and not a mirror for you. That's fine. Go see what these people care about so much that they are getting out on a Saturday morning and sweating and having to carry water and their babies and why, like, what, and historically, what impact does that have? And
Mhm.
I think it's important. That is part of the voice that we have, and to
Yes,
ignore
ma'am.
it and then to tell children that they have no place in it, I think is a big mistake that we make as a community. Excluding obviously dangerous situations, but I think letting students know that is one of their levers, and one of their most easily
Mhm.
accessible levers from a young age is, they can't vote yet. So
Right.
it's, I remember being frustrated as a young person, not being taken seriously. And I think giving them ways to be taken seriously is empowering. So,
Yes, ma'am. And that's what I was gonna say. It's like not having them wait, like having being understanding that our kids are in this world too. Like I don't understand. A lot of people like I don't know, they diminish a child's like
mhm.
presence because of their age or because of their
Right.
size. And it's like, but they're still present here in the world. They're
Mhm.
still taking all this stuff in, especially if your child has a smartphone. They're definitely taking all
Yes.
this stuff in, as far as social media
Yeah.
goes and whatnot. You have to teach them that they have a voice now as opposed
Mhm.
to later. You don't want them to be accepting of the wrongs because we all
Right.
have a part to play in this. We are
Mhm.
all purpose for
Yeah.
something. And it's
Mhm.
like you have to encourage them to dive deeper and really examine like how can I be a part of this? Because like you said, maybe it's not to go out and be a part of the protest. We've
Mhm.
walked through some protests and then that
Right.
sparks conversations where me and my girls, are
Exactly.
talking about ICE and talking about
Mhm.
what that means for families and why people are out here. Like we've done
Right.
that and whatnot,
Mhm.
but to actually understand like do I want to be in this protest? Do I want to
Mhm.
is this the role I want to play, or do I want to be the one at the
Right.
policy meetings? Do I want to be the one
Mhm.
writing up policies? Like what do you want to
Right.
do? Just understanding that you have a choice and you have a role to
Yeah.
play in general. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
sit back.
It takes so many different shapes. I mean, and I think that the other thing that we are guarding against here is, you talk about the social media and the phones and all the distractions. And I think I see in my own life multiple adults who very much get caught up in mass opinion. And the other thing it
Mm,
does for kids is, like, you do not have to agree. But what I do expect is for you to have, one of our core values is inquiry. When you see something, you need to ask yourself why and what's the impact and how does it affect me? Do I have a part to play? If so, what kind of part do I have to play? So that, I think not discussing it, that child will still be impacted. The difference is they will not be aware that they are being impacted.
mm,
We agreed that they will if we intentionally introduce that exercise of looking around and questioning who's paying for this. There's another big one, like,
mhm,
where's the money going? Why? What is the motive behind introducing this stimulus and this effect? And raising conscious individuals is really the goal to solving a lot of global issues. And,
yes,
it's not, I think too many times a child is told, don't ask that question. It hurts my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously there are paradigms, to do it in a very conscientious way. There was one woman I went to see at South by Southwest, and, throughout my career, I've done a lot of trainings on restorative practices or SEL, and, a lot of things that really emphasize caretaking when you're talking about nuance or conflict or complex traumatic topics, trauma-based pedagogies. But this woman worked with The Economist based in the UK. And she did an entire session on how to talk about things like ICE with kids who are being directly affected as part of a school program. And, what it opened up to me is really, if we are intentional and research-based and listening to our children, there is very little that we need to shut down whenever a child expresses curiosity. That doesn't mean I won't be in constant communication with the parents, if a child says, who is Jeffrey Epstein? But it does mean that I will never say, don't ask that question.
Yes.
I never, it just, it's tough. But I think that allowing them to ask those questions is important.
Yes, ma'am. Because if they don't ask you, guess what? They're going to ask somebody.
Exactly.
They're going to ask Siri. They're going to ask Google.
Yes.
They're going to ask their pet.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Or these AIs that have not been trained to be globally conscious. I don't know how many times I have to tell AI bots to just do better. But it's every day. But it is what it, and they're being raised in this world, right? So being able to see what an AI outputs and compare it to what they're seeing, and and then being able to have conversations around, let's say they do ask a question that's radically insensitive. The worst thing you could do is tell them not to ask it and then ignore the impact that question just had on the community, and so we're going to have additional accountability conversations, because that's part of working across cultures as well. Is it's not this being raised in the South. I think there was a lot of if it's impolite, just don't pay attention to it, move along, keep your mouth shut. And that is the opposite of what you need to change a culture. We are also going to have very intentional accountability training exercises, from the beginning, so that running into conflict becomes a growth opportunity for respecting one another and not an exercise in avoidance. Because that's not healthy for anybody.
Yes, because even if you don't acknowledge the question or tell the kid that they shouldn't ask it, the question's still there. Mm-hmm. It's not going to go away in their mind. Now you probably intrigue them even more, because it's like, oh, shucks, I'm not supposed to.
Yes.
Let me go find out why.
There's no better way to help a child pay attention to something, to tell them not to touch it.
Right.
It's definitely
right. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Katelynn, I really like what you got going on, and I love the focus of your program. I can't wait to see all that you do and help these little people accomplish, because I see big things. Definitely. I have two more questions before I let you go.
Yeah, go for it.
So one is, how, with all the global awareness and all, because you up on trends and news and all that good stuff, and you're building a whole school right now, how do you make sure you self-care?
Oh, that is a great question. I am actually a religious exerciser right now.
Okay.
I have to. I need the endorphins that come from daily exercise. I would say that's my number one. Being a military family, we have a lot of stressors that don't even include building a business and a school right now. So again, it has been real tough. But I think the thing that keeps me grounded is, getting out every single day and, taking care of my body.
Nice.
That's the biggest thing.
Okay. And the other one, if parents or our listeners did not hear anything else during this conversation, what's 3 things you want them to take away? Like, if you didn't hear anything else, hear this.
My three things. One, are we talking about advice or things about EverRoot?
Whatever you like, love. It's all on you.
Okay. I think my number one thing would be in educating our children. I would say the number one priority should be empowerment. Whatever you choose to do with your child. If you choose to sit them in front of the TV and a video game for 5 hours, ask yourself how to use that as an opportunity for empowerment. I mean, whatever it is, an interaction with a peer, or, I would say that is probably the thing at the top of my brain. Number two is agency. I really, really believe in agency. Children are very intelligent. And as they get older, they have more power to articulate it. But even before they can, just having respect for everything that their just sheer life force is taking in and offering to the world, just remembering that they can be agents of their own reality today. We're not preparing them to be. They are. And we're here to help them do that, right?
Yes.
And then I think the third thing, honestly, is just I would encourage folks to find more resources like you, Ms. Jae, that connect us, right? Because none of us can do it alone. And I'm
Indeed.
grateful to you for offering the spaces that you do with the expos and the blogs. And I'm just very grateful. I think you're doing
thank you. Thank you, Katelynn. Thank you for that. We are stronger together. And the conversations have to be had because, this is food for thought because not everyone sits around and think about some of the stuff that, we think about as far as, people, definitely people who have been in the education system outside of just going to school, but actually working in the educational system. Our thought process may not be what a parent is thinking about because they've never seen the interworkings of. So I love having these conversations. I love presenting different resources for families because I need people to understand you have choices.
Yes.
You have choices. You have choices. If something is not working for you, find what does, because everyone's family is different. All of our little beings are different. Find what works for you and your family, because the resources are there. I'm excited about EverRoot Academy. I can't wait to check in with you again next year. I'm excited that you're going to be at the expo. But I know you're going to have some really amazing stories to share, and I can't wait to see all that you and this beautiful academy is going to do for the world, not just for, the households that you're going to impact, but the world that you're going to impact. So thank you. Thank you for thinking on this level. This is dope. It really is.
Thanks. I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Of course. Families, the resources are there. Always tap in. Remember that this is not a journey that we have to do alone. I will stress always that we are stronger together. We are stronger together. So tap into the resources and always and forever homeschool your kids.
Beautiful.